Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Ferrer, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm cloud hired.
But I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired. Because of Go Cloud Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the Glow Cloud team.
All right, welcome to our first Cloud Career Q&A session of 2023. Glad to be here with everybody. My name's Mike. Oh.
Having fun already.
Oh,
Love it.
That's going to be how this year is going to go. Okay, all right. So, and there we go. This is a great start. All right, my name is Chris Johnson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Go Cloud Careers, joined by Mike Gibbs, our founder and CEO, and Alonzo Coleman, our Chief Marketing Officer. I'm sure he will be back momentarily. But welcome to our Cloud Career Q&A session. Here we, there's Alonzo. There we go. All right.
What the heck?
It's a great way to start off the year.
Right. We're going to claim this as good fortune.
Yes. Somebody did not eat their black-eyed peas this year. All right. Anyway, so what we do here at Go Cloud Careers is we focus on helping people reach their dream cloud computing careers. Most likely the cloud architect. We are working with some cloud engineers. We took in a handful. I say a handful. We took in a couple of months worth of enrollments for our cloud engineer program before we stopped taking new enrollments in that. So we work with cloud architects, cloud engineers, and we help people that want to get their first cloud architect job or their first cloud engineer job. So if you've got any questions about cloud computing, what is a cloud architect? What is cloud computing? Any questions about AWS cloud computing, Azure cloud computing careers in general, the cloud architect job, cloud computing courses, cloud architect courses, any questions about any of these things, that's what we're here for at Go Cloud Careers. We this year we're going to be doing this on a weekly basis moving forward. We've got a lot of exciting things coming, a lot of new programs and new content that we've got to make some space for. So we're going to be trimming this down to once a week. Occasionally we may throw another one in there, but we're going to be trimming our Q&A sessions down to once a week. So make sure you get these questions in while you can. I'm not sure of any other place that in any industry, for that matter, that you can come and ask somebody or a panel of people with 25, 40, nearly 75 years of experience between the three of us in professional and technology careers. Not sure of anywhere else where you have that opportunity, even on a weekly basis or a quarterly basis or every 6 month basis. So make sure you ask us your questions. We're here to help you for free. So make sure to bring those questions in. We're only going to be here for an hour. So don't wait. Don't hesitate. Get those questions in. Before we get started, I want to make everybody aware of a few things. So this Thursday and most Thursdays, we have a How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. This is a free webinar that is at 1 p.m. Eastern Time that will be hosted by the three of us. That we will cover everything from why we created our training program and the content that we have to how to become the ultimate cloud architect. We tell you everything you need to know. Obviously, we can't train you in the time of the webinar, but we tell you what you need to learn. So you can do it with us, or you can do it on your own. Then, we talk about what cloud architects actually do, what hiring managers actually want, all the good stuff to help you on your way to becoming the Ultimate Cloud Architect. So make sure you register for that. That's this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I guess that's tomorrow. Wow. Yes, that's tomorrow. All right. The next thing. Oh, and there goes Mike. All right. This is going to be a fun year.
I'm loving it.
Make sure everybody. There he is. He's back. All right. Cindy must be in the room with you.
She was exactly in the room. She came up, jumped in my lap, and kissed me, and I was a little embarrassed about it, so I muted the screen for a second.
Just so everybody knows,
Cindy,
Cindy is a cat, by the way.
Yeah,
Cindy is a cat.
If it was my wife, it wouldn't be so embarrassing, but my cat literally jumped in my lap, went to kiss me, and here's the worst part of the whole thing. When you pull away, then she gets angry.
Yeah.
And then she scratches you, bites you, so, you just got to do what you got to do.
So I also want to make sure everybody's aware of our free AWS exam guide, free AWS video course, and free AWS lab demos. You can get all of those at the link that's in the chat box from Tyrone. It's also the link in the description. And make sure to take advantage of those. Hundreds of hours went into that from people, from a wide variety of people with hundreds of years of experience. So make sure to take advantage of these free resources. And then lastly, I want to make sure that everyone is following us on LinkedIn, both Mike's LinkedIn and Go Cloud Careers LinkedIn. And then if you're here on YouTube, of course, make sure you hit that subscribe and the notification bell button and the like button and all those fun buttons down at the bottom of the screen here. So before we get started, anything from the two of you?
Yeah, I want to kick it off and say, please ask us your questions so we can help you build your career. And we don't just do cloud architects and cloud engineers. We take network engineers and turn them into enterprise architects. We teach you how to earn more money in tech. We have training to make sure that you can maximize your interview. Did you know in most jobs, these big jobs, there's about $100,000 difference? And how well you perform in that interview can make a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 difference in your pay based upon how much the employer desires you. So we cover the full spectrum of building elite and premier careers. We don't focus on the simple basics. We focus on the jobs that really get you paid more. I've got a sample of jobs that we'll probably get to today between $350,000 and $500,000 a year in the tech world. That's our specialty. Optimizing careers, not just getting people their first job, but getting them the skills that they can progress in their careers. So while everybody else is worried about the minutia, our people focus on the big, high-value targets and maximize their career. So ask us your questions because I really want to help you.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's see here. We got
Here's the net.
Hey, Patrick.
All right.
Patrick's over at Cisco. He joined us, then he started working at Cisco, and while he's completing our program, we all know I love Cisco. I spent nearly a decade there.
Awesome. I love these success stories.
All right. I feel like I've got deja vu. I feel like I saw this question somewhere recently and I hadn't had the chance to respond. I don't know if it was on Slack or an email or something, but Mr. Dominic says, hello all. I would like to specialize in event-driven microservices, systems architectures, and cloud architecture. Is there a specialization or specific role for this that combines both?
Okay, Mr. Dominic, I gotta address this right now. If you desire to build a career in microservices, you will have a horrible career, and here's the reason why. As architects, we don't focus on tech, we focus on business transformation. And if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And if you go to a hairdresser and say, what can you do with my hair? No matter what it's done, they're gonna say, I can do it. So you must specialize in being a customer advocate. How do you impact your customer's business? Look, you can focus on microservices and find yourself a $150,000 a year job, and you'll never advance. And here's the reason why. I need someone that can solve my business problem. Here, I'll give you an example. Alonzo, I want you to be a chief information officer, real quick. Alonzo, how are you today?
Doing great, Michael. How are you?
I am great. Did you know I got some microservice ideas for you that can really change your business? Are you interested?
Sounds interesting. What do you have to offer?
Well, we can take your monoliths, turn them into microservices, and they're going to be really cool. They're going to scale better and be more efficient.
Could you elaborate more, please?
Okay, now let's do it another way.
Yeah.
Alonzo, how are you today?
Doing awesome. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing great. Could you tell me about your business goals? What are you trying to achieve?
Well, we want to achieve economies of scale. We want to increase our business by 35% over 5 years. We want to ensure that we have enough customer availability during our busy months during the Christmas year. We want to ensure that we have compliance related storage for those times where we need to do audits. We also need to ensure that that our containerization is locked down tight and ensure that the security is consistent throughout our architecture. Is this something that you can provide for us?
Alonzo, absolutely. What we can do is the following. What I'd like to do is, you've given me some information, but I need a lot more. I'd like to spend time with your chief information officer to truly understand your technology, your applications, whether they're microservices, whether they're monoliths, how they're working, what they're working. I'd like to also examine your business processes and to see how tech enables or disables your business processes. I'd also like to bring in a team of cloud engineers that can baseline your systems, look at your system utilization. I'd like to speak with your department heads, and I'd also really like to examine your business with you, really examine your pain points. You said increased sales, you talked about decreases expenses, you talked about availability of your system. After that, what my plan is to go back to a team of 50 people. I'll work with some application architects to see if microservice is good for your business or wrong for your business. We'll look at your servers to determine, is it better in the data center with a hybrid cloud, or should you use a multi-cloud environment? We'll conduct with the best security architects in the world to see what you need to do with regards to this. After this, we're going to consult with Cisco and some other networking people to see if we can optimize your network performance and tune your network performance. And of course, once we understand your business processes and understand how your people work, we can look at your people, processes, and technologies. Would you like me to do that and come back when you have more information?
Sounds like you have a wide spectrum of experience, Michael. Yes, we'd love to set up a meeting with you.
Okay, I really am concerned about digital transformation. I want to maximize your business value. So, Mr. Dominic, what did I do that's different? The second you walk in there and you say, I'm a microservices specialist or a microservices evangelist, you just prove to the customer they can't trust you, because you need to be a trusted advisor to the customer. Now, Mr. Dominic, I want you to understand the customer, the business acumen, the leadership, the sales skills, and here's the reason why. If you focus on tech, you're like a hammer and nothing more. Now, if you learn the business acumen, the leadership, the sales skills, the executive presence, it opens you up for a lot. Now, look at these. I'm going to show you some jobs that require business acumen. Now, if I told you salary.com said the average professional that has business acumen earns $549,000 per year, you'd think it's a lot. Now, here's a principal architect at Google, and the average salary is $508,000 a year. And guess what? They don't want certifications in the job description. Here's a principal architect at Microsoft, and we're dealing with about $380,000 a year average, and many earn more. Okay, a principal solutions architect at Amazon, and again, we're dealing with $375,000 or $372,000 a year. I'll show you some more, and this is our expertise at raising people's income in tech. Okay, Oracle pays a little less, $296,000 a year for a principal architect, but an architect like a principal architect does what I did with Alonzo, as opposed to saying, hey, I got this cool microservices. And, I'll give you a couple more examples. Now, the senior director at Palo Alto and a lot of really great architects that study business acumen, get these jobs. We're talking about $540,000 a year.
Mike coming with the receipts today.
With the receipts.
Another one. The senior director at Cisco, $527,000 a year. So, and I could go on and go on. Accenture, we got a managing director, another business acumen job, and trust me, I worked in management consulting after being an architect for a couple of years. And what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with $384,000. I could go on and go on and go on, Mr. Dominic. So where do you want to be? Do you want to be focused on a little tiny piece of technology, or do you want to be like me and focus on making your customers' business better and digital transformation? Do you want that $150,000 a year, or do you want that $500,000 a year a couple of years later of getting the right training? So, Mr. Dominic, focus on making your customers more successful. Don't focus on a tool like a screwdriver. That's what you're basically asking. Hey, can I focus on this thing? I want you to focus on your customer. Be a customer evangelist, not a tech evangelist. That's the secret to an elite architecture career. So, and you can't just pick favorites. What's your favorite technology, Mike? I don't have a favorite technology. My favorite technology is what makes my customer most successful. Transform your customer's business, and you can do anything. So that's my guidance for you. Don't waste your time on the tech. It's like trying to be a master carpenter that focuses on a hammer. And Chris is trying to keep me from talking too much because I have a vocal cord injury. That's what that's about.
I was excited too. I should have hit that buzzer, but I was excited too. So
I'm gonna just tack something onto the end of this. Everything that Mike just said is spot on.
yes.
If you're truly passionate about something and you're not, and you have no passion for what he just explained, then you should make sure you do something you love. So everything Mike just said is true, 100% accurate. But if you're not passionate about it, make sure you find what does drive you. So that's all I gotta say to that. Just because chasing the almighty dollar gets you only so far at the end of the day. So, but if it's something you just got to make sure you're aware of. Don't. I say this because there's a difference between liking something and being passionate and loving, like working in this with this and that type of thing. So microservices may not be something that falls into that category, but I'm just, for others that might be listening and thinking and trying to extrapolate these responses to questions that you may have, keep that in mind.
And I agree with Chris on that. You must follow your passion, but you can't be a great architect if you're focused on one thing. If you're an architect, you must focus on your customer's business. Now, if you want to be a microservices engineer and you love it, that's fantastic, just like Chris said. But an architect's about business transformation. It's a carpenter can't only know how to use one tool.
Yep.
That's where we're coming from.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what I was saying. You know, if you're truly passionate about not playing, but working with the microservices, then you need to give some heavy thought to that. But if you truly do want to be an architect, then you need to give some thought to that. Just make sure, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're doing what makes you happy and fulfilled, while also being able to provide for yourself and your family.
Goals have to meet expectations.
All right, let's find this next one. I'm gonna have to be quicker on the timer also. All right.
You need a buzzer too, Chris?
Okay. Let's find our next question. From Up and Up. To learn the basic of networking, what are some of the books you recommend to read? Okay, I always say I'm going to type these down. Like I'm making a time marker right now.
Up and Up, I recommend. There's a couple books, but if you really want to get good up and up, and I know you, and you're really someone that'll focus, you got to go to the Internet Engineering Task Force, and you got to read the RFCs. RFC 1918, RFC 2547, the BGP VPNs, the BGP RFCs, the OSPF RFCs. There are certain things. Now, Stevens' TCP/IP book is an old book, but I absolutely love it. But Sam Halabi, sometimes he uses the name Sam Halabi, is another wonderful book called Internet Routing Architectures. Routing TCP/IP Volumes 1 and 2 from Jeff Doyle are also really good networking books. So there are really good sources of information to really get the basics and fundamentals of networking. Love all those books, but if you really want to get deep, and a lot of my students ask me, hey, Mike, I really want to learn BGP. I point them to the BGP RFC. And what is the RFC? It's the actual specification. So when you're at Cisco and somebody's writing code to build the routing protocol, they don't go to a book, they go to that RFC. The RFC is what exactly the standard has to be. Great question.
All right. Perfect. Like I said, I made a timestamp for that one. Okay. Chris says, hi, everyone. I'm working as an IT system analyst. I don't understand what is the difference between a system analyst and a solution architect.
Oh, big difference.
What do you think?
Major difference. So a system analyst is somebody that looks at the systems and just figures it out, how busy, how utilization, maybe some capacity planning and things like that. An architect is a business professional that marries business with technology. So an architect goes to the CEO. Please tell me about your business problems, your business pain points, your business goals. Then the architect interviews department heads, employees, and looks at their people, their processes, and engineering. Then the architect has to go back to their organization and sell the management to build them a team of 15 to 20 people, because nobody ever designs an architecture by themselves. So now you're dealing with a leader. Then you need to coordinate the people's input into a system design. Then from there, you got to write up the design, potentially in a 50 to 100-page document. I've written 500-page design documents, and a small document for the executive team, and another document for the managed team, along with a lot of graphics. Then you got to present it back to the customer, sell it back to the customer. And then once it's done, you usually have to negotiate the deal with the account manager and other team the rest of the account team. And when that's done, you go to your next customer. So an architect is 50 to 80% business, and it's an executive position, and 20% to 50% technology. So there's no comparison between the two. And that's why when people get certifications in tech and only learn the tech, and then they go on architect positions, they're pretty much told, sorry, come back when you have experience, which basically means you don't know how to do the job. And you don't need experience. We've got Daniel Bosu with no experience, and Jennifer with no experience getting hired at JP Morgan Chase, and Romanik Ivan Tamba, and Delroy Bat. And I can give you example after example. Vladimir, a nice 21-year-old or 24-year-old person, got a wonderful cloud architect job with no experience. But the difference is an architect is a systems designer, a business executive, a technology professional. And an IT analyst is focused on the tech. The architect is focused on the business transformation, and that's the main difference between the two. And typically speaking, if you are an IT systems analyst and you wanted to become an architect, you would have to do one of the following. Either take a course like ours, where we would teach you how to transition from a more tech role to a more business role, or you'd have to get an MBA, because you need that business acumen, those leadership skills. You're going to be building business cases and ROI models. You need to know what a CEO cares about so you can position your technology. So it's a very big difference in the career. Architect careers, realistically speaking, are management consulting careers, just with tech, and IT analyst roles are more engineering roles. So big difference. But you can transition to become an architect, and we could help you do it with our Cloud Architect Career Development Program or our Elite Cloud Architect Program. Or you could take system design training and get an MBA, which either case you'd get there, but you need those kind of skills either way. We provide all those skills.
Okay, give me just 1 second. I got a question here that I'm going to respond to. All right. Cloud Computing says, hi guys, what are the certifications you will advise I should take after or during the Cloud Architect Career Development Plus program as someone that wants to become a cloud architect? Thank you. Mike, before you start, because Mike, I want you to respond about certifications, but I'm going to respond to, if you're in our program, you'll figure that out in the program. Complete the lessons as they're outlined in the program, and you will figure that out. You will figure out the answer to your question. We've designed the program specifically to help you determine what you should study and what you should learn. Now, Mike, would you, or Alonso, either one, would you like to answer about certifications?
Yeah, I'm going to cover it. So right now, I could never give you the answer, and here's why. I don't know what kind of cloud architect you even want to be.
Right.
Now, if you wanted to be a
program,
if you wanted to be a cloud network architect, there'd be a real networking certification, nothing like this ridiculous AWS advanced networking that has no networking in it whatsoever, no BGP, no anything. And it might be like a Cisco certified network professional and an AWS certified solution architect professional. But guess what? Maybe you want to be a cloud security architect, and that's a different certification pathway. So when someone says, which certification should I get? It's kind of like saying, which airplane at London Heathrow Airport should I get on, or JFK should I get on? Because if you get certifications in somebody else's career, you look bad on the interview, and they won't take you seriously. So often I have to remove certifications from people's resumes because they've done so many, and they go on interview and after interview and after interview, and they get laughed out of the room. And then we remove their certifications, and they go on their first interview, get an offer, a second interview, get an offer, and they get 3 job offers. So it's kind of like, when I used to practice medicine, someone would say, what's your favorite pill? And I'd say, for what? For a sinus infection, for hypertension or for diabetes. So, in our program, we'll help you figure out the one that's optimal for you. And if you tell me exactly which career path, I'll happily tell you which certifications. But I'm going to tell you this right now. No certification will ever get you a cloud architect job. And here's the reason why. Certifications are basically brainwashing about a vendor's name of a service and how to configure them. Guess what? I can't use any vendor names when I go to a customer. Hey, Alonzo, you want to buy my super exciting S3?
No, thank you.
Now, Alonzo, I understand you have a petabyte of object storage. I think we can move that object storage to the cloud in a very similar fashion. Now, I want to analyze what's best for your business, whether it be AWS, Azure, Google. Your team's going to want to know names. So AWS calls it S3, Azure calls it blobs, Google calls it cloud storage. They're functionally the same. But I'd like to figure out what's best, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, something else. Are you interested in learning more?
I'm definitely interested in your options. That's more optimal and best optimal for my business. Thank you.
Yeah, so cloud computing, you need to learn the cloud. And we teach the cloud. And then once you know that, all this stuff is silly easy. If you don't get a certification to drive a Honda, and then wait, my wife just bought a Toyota. How am I going to drive this thing? I got to go to certification. So the key is, if you let us know which ones, I can tell you certifications which will help you get an interview. And I'd be more than happy to. But I need to know what kind of cloud architect.
No. If they're in the program, they do the program.
Yeah.
If they're asking about being told what to do in the program, they follow the program.
If they're in the program, they're going to follow the program.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And our team is going to make sure, is going to ask their goals.
Yeah.
And then they're going to advise them, do this, don't do this, because we care about our student success.
Yeah. All right. Here's a fun one. I put a link in the chat box for this.
Okay. Darnu Tony, what's the difference between the Elite Cloud Architect program and the Cloud Architect Development program?
Touch on this. So the Cloud Architect Career Development program has gotten people hired nearly every single day of the week. It was a passion project of mine. And what it really was is I wanted to put together a massive program that would change lives for anybody in the world, no matter what their financial background was. And that's the basis of how I started the program. This program now it took about $1 million of education and about 250 years of experience to put it together. And this program every day gets people really great cloud architect jobs. Now, what I also wanted to do was create a different program that would capitalize on all these same things, but would have more interview training. It would have small batch additional training and group coaching. It would have some one-on-one interviews with executive interview coaches and people that were even chief people officers at organizations to really give people not only the tools to get their first cloud architect job, but also get bigger and bigger and bigger jobs going through. So the Elite Cloud Architect program has a lot more leadership and business acumen training to prepare people for these $300,000 to $500,000 a year jobs within a few years later. In addition to just getting their first cloud architect job, interview coaching. They're both incredibly great programs. Many people have gotten hired with our Cloud Architect Career Development program. We've won awards to be the best online school of cloud computing with this. And our success rate of getting people jobs between $120,000 and $287,000 a year in our Cloud Architect Career Development program is huge. But I wanted to create a program that would prepare people not only to get their first job, but to have the skills to get those principal architect jobs in about 5 to 10 years' time at $500,000 a year because of the extra business acumen. But totally amazing programs, both of them.
Nuruddin, hi. I've been doing hands-on using the AWS console. However, it's tedious tearing stuff apart, so I learned basics to Terraform and love it. Do you need to know Terraform or similar in a job environment? I'll let you guys answer that obvious question.
Well, the first thing is for what role?
Yes.
Like we can't answer it unless we know what role.
Yes.
So Nuruddin, if you can tell us what role, what career you're interested in, if you're interested in engineering, if you're interested in architecture, if you're interested in DevOps, whatever it might be, let us know and we can give a better answer
exactly
to that question.
And
if
what
you
Chris
can
said
add
is
that
so
in the
critical.
chat now, that would be great so that we can speedily answer it quickly if you can.
And that's so important because a cloud architect or a solution architect will never touch the console and they'll never touch Terraform. But a cloud engineer will, and a DevOps engineer will. So it's all about learning the skills for your job, meaning, if you want to be an airplane pilot, train to be a pilot, don't go to law school. And that's the problem with, just blanket answering or certification courses is they're not related to any job in specific. So they don't really prepare you for anything. So if you tell us the career, I'd love to guide you. I really want to, but we need to know which job first.
Cloud engineer.
Cloud engineer. Okay, Nuruddin, good. We actually spoke a little longer because I was hoping you'd have a chance because I know there's a delay and I wanted to get this. So as a cloud engineer, there'll be a little at the console, but very minimal. There'll be work that's done on the command line, and most things are going to be done in Terraform. It's not efficient to do these things. Now, as a cloud engineer, I'm going to make it very clear. An AWS certified solution architect professional is nowhere close to enough. Now, while cloud architects don't work on Linux, cloud engineers need to work on Linux, and you need very good Linux skills. And that's going to be both on Ubuntu-based systems as well as Red Hat-based systems. AWS Linux is more Red Hat-based, but Ubuntu is the biggest system in the cloud, and you're going to be using both. You're going to need to understand Bash shell scripting, for example. As a cloud engineer, you're going to need to know Python scripting as a cloud engineer. Keep that in the back of your mind. As a cloud engineer, you probably need to know Windows PowerShell scripting, and a cloud engineer is all build. They're the exact opposite of a cloud architect. A cloud architect doesn't code, doesn't configure, doesn't touch the tech. Cloud engineer is deep. So figure the AWS solution architect professional is about 15% of a cloud engineer, 5% of a cloud architect, but 15% of a cloud engineer. Master those Linux skills and get real good to the level of a Linux engineer. Master those Terraform skills. Master the CLIs on most of the cloud. Master the underlying technologies. And learn how to do your scripting in Python and Bash and PowerShell. You should have a really good career. Thank you for your question, Ardina. I just wanted to make sure we guided you in the right direction.
Here's ZNet. How would one go about taking the CISSP without a recommendation? Or can one secure a cloud security architect role with only an AWS solutions architect professional and worry about the CISSP later?
Well, we've got Delroy Bad. He has 0 cloud certifications. He took our program. And I don't even think he has any security certifications. But he is excellent. Excellent. So the key is,
I'm pretty sure he's getting paid to prepare for certification, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Well, after he got his job, they did pay him to get a few certifications, but they loved him. And here's the thing. I saw the 3 job offers that Delroy Bat was given. And he asked me which one I should take. And he took the one that he loved the most. And people still, every single day, reach out to him. And he's like, no, I've got a job and I love it. But the key is he had no certifications whatsoever. Gear GZ, the only people that care about certifications are the certification providers. And all the other people that think certifications are going to get him a job. Here's the thing. When I hire somebody, I want someone that can do the job. Chris is my chief operating officer, and we need him. He is critical to our business. I never even looked at his resume. Did I ever look at your resume, Chris? Did you give me one?
I still don't think you've seen my resume.
I've never seen Chris's resume, and here's why. Chris is my student. He wanted to do an internship. He did such a good job on the internship, he's part of my company. And really, that's the key. We hire people that are great. So first, it's pretty easy to get a recommendation for the CISSP. But it's not the certifications that get you hired, it's the knowledge. Delroy Bat has people reaching out to him. Bob Welch doesn't have a CISSP, and he doesn't have an AWS certified solution architect professional either. He does a cloud practitioner. And he was getting 20 people reach out to him per day for a job based upon the branding we did with him. He did some things with us specifically. We helped tune his resume. We showed him what kind of LinkedIn things to post. The world comes to him every day, but he's got a job that he truly loves. So you can land a job with 0 certifications. Jeffrey West had a cloud practitioner. Delroy Bad had no certifications whatsoever. I can give you example after example. Now, you can have the CISSP and the solutions architect professional. Nobody's going to hire you unless you know how to design, how to present, how to sell, how to lead, and how the underlying technology works. But the key is, of course, you can get hired. And if you're with a good training organization, maybe they'll give you a recommendation. Because if they're recommending you to do it as part of your training program, many of them will give you a good recommendation. But the key is you can get a certain job without any of these things. But please don't waste your time on the AWS Advanced Security. That's not even an intro to an intro to an intro to an intro, an intro with the junior level security. And it's going to teach you the proprietary things which you can't use in the real world anyway. We're not going to be using AWS WAF to secure our systems. We're going to be using next generation firewalls from Palo Alto or Fortinet or Checkpoint or Cisco or things like that. So don't worry so much about certifications. Worry about becoming a great cloud architect or a great cloud security architect.
All right, let's see. So CC Lemon asks, what do cloud architects focus on more now than they did 5 to 10 years ago? Ooh,
Next question.
that's a good one. I've never
That is a nice one.
never been asked it, but I can venture a guess.
You know what cloud architects focused, good architects focused on 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and now? Making your customers more successful. That's the focus. So I actually led a business council of CXO leaders, CIOs, CEOs. Cisco had me do it. I'll give you some secrets. None of them care at all about the tech. If I told you that you've got big global banks that are still running IBM mainframes from the 1970s, they're still part of the architecture and we have to deal with this stuff all the time. You can go to military bases that are running Windows XP from 20 years ago. The focus is the same. Now, I will tell you, CC Lemon, there's more of a focus on the business than there ever was before, and here's the reason why. In the old days, the tech was much more complicated. I had to read 75,000 pages for my CCIE. Now you can pass an AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional with less than 1,000 pages of reading. So in the old days, the tech didn't work, and it had all these idiosyncrasies, and now the tech is so much easier. So as the tech gets easier, there's much more focus on business transformation. But even 20 years ago, the secret to being a great architect was there. And CC Lemon, 20 years ago, I had a manager, and he gave me some of the best advice ever. I was taking a CISSP class, and I fell asleep in the class. And he tapped me on the shoulder. I'm like, he's like, come with me, Mike. And I'm like, oh, great. I'm going to get disciplined now. They just spent $5,000 for this 1 week CISSP boot camp, and I fell asleep. And my manager pulls me in his office, and he says, Mike, can we talk about something? And I'm like, yep, okay, here's the talk. This is bad. And he says, Mike, you're not like the regular architects here. And I'm like, this has already sounded bad. And he says, you're different and you're better. And I said, what do you mean? He said, all of them, they want to get 1 million certifications and talk acronym, tech. And you don't try to do any of that. You try to build the team and bring out the team. And he says, do you know the difference between a $150,000 engineer and a $300,000 either enterprise architect or distinguished engineer? And I said, tell me. And he said, Mike, it's the impact you can make on your customers. It's having the business knowledge to understand your customers' business problems. It's being able to communicate better to the CEO, CIO, CXO, CFO. It's being able to better lead the teams that you build on demand. It's being able to build a business case to show the customer, hey, buying your $1 billion solution is going to generate $2 and $3 billion of business value. It's the ability to write thought leadership documentation to play the industry. Well, I did an MBA. They paid for $50,000 to $100,000 of leadership training, and poof, I had that great job. So the key is the main focus of an architect is improving your customer's business performance. That's it. And tech is our tool to do it. Like a carpenter has tools, like a hammer and a screwdriver and nails. Our tool is tech. It could be network tech, it could be applications, it could be data center tech, but our tools are tech. But what we go do is focus on digital transformation. Same thing. Great question, by the way.
Okay, just to make everybody aware that we will be ending in about 15 minutes. So we will be finishing up the questions that we've already received. I also want to remind everybody about our free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure to register for that webinar so that you can see exactly how we recommend you become the ultimate cloud architect and how you can do it with us or on your own. You can also ask questions there for an hour and a half or so. So make sure to register for that and join us at 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So let's get on with the questions. The next one we will not be answering, and I'll tell you why. What are the steps used to design and deploy a cloud architecture? Well, as a cloud architect, we design. As an engineer, we deploy in very simplest terms. But that's what we train. So I could be wrong. Mike, are we going to answer that?
Well, architects don't deploy anything. Here's our job as architects. We design it, and as soon as the customer says yes, we typically find a service delivery executive who finds a bunch of engineers to build. We don't touch the technology as architects. That's what engineers do. So now you're asking about an architecture career and an engineering career. And if you try to do both, it's like trying to be the pilot of an airplane, flying it, and the flight attendant keeping people safe at the same time. Plane's going to crash. Can't do that. You got to do one. I'm going to tell you right now, tonight, I want you to go out and look at the beautiful moon, stars, and all these things. And while you're at it, get a pair of really big binoculars or a telescope. Now zoom in on the moon, which is what an engineer has to do. They have to be zoomed in. And note, you won't see the sky anymore. But Tariq, the steps, it takes us about 500 hours to training to teach people how to design systems. And we can't go over it, and that's why we have our Cloud Architect Career Development Program.
All right. So our next question is from Francis. Hi, I'm a systems engineer doing hardware break and fix on EMC storage and VMware environment plus data center. What cloud path should I follow if I want to be a cloud engineer?
Well, if you wanted to be a cloud engineer, the good news is you understand storage, hopefully. Now, I don't know if you understand storage, if you understand how to just put cards in there and things like that. Now, the cloud is nothing more than a data center and a network that's been virtualized. If you truly understand how VMware works, virtual network functions and how to design them and how they work, and the server virtualization and containers and container orchestration and block storage, object storage, and file storage, and if you're in a data center, guess what? You're going to probably already know how to deal with physical load balancers, whether they be network load balancers, application load balancers. You may be dealing with routers and switches. And those are the skills that you need to understand how they work. But then you're still going to have to learn how to configure the cloud as an engineer. You're going to need to understand some scripting. And you're going to need to go understand, Terraform or infrastructure as code. You're going to need to get great Linux skills, Linux administration, and those kind of things. So that's really the reality of the things. Scripting, infrastructure as code, Python, Bash scripting, PowerShell scripting, systems administration on Windows and Linux systems, and all of those other things. And Chris said okay, but he was muted.
I like this new mic. Nice, nice, and not tearing your voice up.
Good, you love it.
All right, Hi, I'm aged 43 years. Can I do cloud and get the job?
Kartik.
So I put a link in the chat box. Man, the more I start to see these questions, I'm like, man, I'm 37. I need to start thinking about this. Nope, no, I don't.
And I hear this. It's truly so upsetting to me. First, I have a video which Chris will put in there or can put in there about Does Age Matter and how to play the game at your age. At 43, it's a whole lot easier than when you're 30. I'll tell you that right now. We've gotten 20-year-olds hired, but we recently got Bob Welch, a beautiful cloud security architect job, with with a cloud practitioner certification, by the way, and nothing else worth talking about. And we recently got Sig Wolf, a wonderful cloud engineering job, and he's 63 years old. So 43 is way, way, way young. In fact, when I worked, I was an elite architect in a role, and everybody with me used to be a CXO leader that was part of our consulting team. And my manager and my executive coach were in the same meeting, as it turned out. She wasn't my executive coach then. She was a leadership coach for me then, and now she's my executive coach. And my manager says, I'm 45. I'm the youngest guy here, right? And I was going to say, I'm like 33 or 34. I can't remember. And I got a kick in the shin from my leadership coach. And she looked at me and she said, no, don't tell anybody. It doesn't matter your age, but but the bigger jobs, it's generally better when you have a couple of gray hairs here or there.
All right.
Tariq. Okay. You want to take this, Chris?
I'll let you got it.
Okay. Cloud network engineer versus cloud architects. Please define interview point of view. Interview point of view. Okay.
So I guess, like, what's the interview like for these roles?
Yeah.
That's totally unrelated. A cloud network engineer is going to be asking you things about networking, things like, BGP and how do you optimize and tune your performance? What kind of WAN things could you choose? How do they work? And an architect is how do you solve a customer's business problems with technology? The network, any kind of engineer and any kind of architect, it's a completely different thing. Architects are doing presentations on their interviews. Network engineers are basically, I guess I'll give you an example. I might ask, Alonzo, ask me what type of LSAs exist in OSPF. That's a network engineer thing. Or cloud network.
I didn't hear you, Mike. Could you repeat that?
Ask me what type of LSAs exist in OSPF.
Mike, what type of LSAs exist in OSPF, please? Can you elaborate?
Absolutely, Alonzo. So OSPF, as you know, has link state advertisements, which basically are the router sending the states of its links. We have a type 1 LSA, which is generated by the router, and it advertises its own links. Now, on a broadcast multi-access network like Ethernet, we're going to have a designated router, and that's going to provide a type 2 LSA. Now, anytime we go in between areas, we're going to have something called the summary LSA or a type 3 LSA. Now, if we're talking about in external LSAs, say you redistributed a BGP route into OSPF or an ERGRP route, you're going to have a type 5 LSA. So then we get to this weird type 4 LSA. And that basically is how do you reach the ASBR or the Autonomous System Border Router that actually gave you the external route. That's a cloud network engineer thing. Now, an architect thing could be, hey, I could be something, let's put it into a different context. So ask me when I would use block storage versus object storage.
Michael, could you explain when you would use block storage versus object storage for me, please?
Absolutely, Alonzo. So when we're dealing with storage, we really have to figure out the application and what it's being used for. If we're trying to store things in an economical manner, we're going to probably use object storage, assuming it doesn't need to be used by the host. And here's the reason. Object storage is write once, read many times storage. Anytime we save the data, it adds some additional metadata, which is data about that data. And by doing so, it's going to help us find it. Because of the addition of the metadata, it's very usable in a big data environment, for example. If we were creating a data lake, for example, it's great for software distribution, backup, and archival purposes, for example. Now, block storage looks a lot like a physical hard drive in a computer, even though it's a storage area network. So if we're dealing with a system that needs storage that's going to persist after the system has been deleted, we're going to use block storage. And block storage is still a storage area network. It doesn't perform anything close to a standard drive, but it's the best thing we have to do in the cloud. So servers get block storage, backups and archival purposes and software distribution get object storage. So Tariq, it's a simple example that basically shows you one is about why you would use something and the business benefits, and the other is about deep, deep, deep tech. They're totally unrelated.
All right, so our next question, I'm going to pop a video link in here. Cloud computing says, what are the different types of cloud architect? So I'm going to pop a video link in there, so because that's a very long question. Golden Knowledge, I'll let you read that one, Alonzo, while I do this.
Okay, Golden Knowledge says, hello, does your course cover applying for remote jobs for non-US residents? Thank you. Of course we do. Yes, we have a global community. We have everyone from San Francisco to Cameroon and move forward all over the place. So basically, to your point, we do provide that. We provide all these options for our students. So it doesn't matter where you are. We provide that assistance for you so you can get cloud hired.
Absolutely. But most of our students don't even need to apply for jobs. They're so actively recruited because of our name and organization. Did you know last month we had 70 magazine articles in over 60 different publications? And because of that, you know, people know us. Our students are working at AWS, Azure, Google, Cisco, IBM, Oracle, Capgemini, Bearing Point, Apple, JP Morgan Chase, and the list goes on, BBC, every prestigious company you can think of. So our students often help our other students. Caliant, one of our students just got hired at Caliant the other day because another student working at Caliant there. I just found out this morning another student was hired by AWS. So I mean, it's that kind of thing. So if you have the right brand, people come to you. But of course, we teach you what needs to be on your resume so that you know on how to build your brand.
Still looking for this video. Oh, this is a vague one. But we're coming to the end. We got 2 questions left, everybody. So we will finish up here just a second.
Let me see from Hardik Q. How to stay consistent. How to stay consistent with what? How to stay consistent with who, where, when. We need far more details in that, Hardik. We need to know what your goals are, how you want to begin, what your overall end game is. That's extremely vague for us to even begin to answer that question.
It is. So while we wait for Chris, Alonzo, why don't you say how to stay consistent with following a plan to get to your goals? Why don't you talk about that?
Okay. Well, Hardik, first thing is that we definitely want you to review our New Year's resolutions, heading the clouds that we had yesterday. That speaks totally to this. You have to really focus on, first of all, let's get an understanding of what you want to do. Have you figured that out? Have you figured out what kind of role you want, what type of responsibilities, what type of salary you're looking for? Is this something that you're interested in? If so, then the next step is to create a plan. Okay, you need to figure out what that entails, what type of training, what type of resources, what type of people you need to surround yourself with, what type of access to those who are doing the job instead of those who speculate on the job. You need to know, you need that direct link to get an understanding of what you're looking for and if this is the right role and right path for you. The next thing is, after you get that, you got to develop that strategy, that battle plan. We have a lot of resources and new upcoming content that will focus on the battle plan, on how you can get going on that. And then you have to really understand what are those what's the skill set to have this type of role. You need to figure out, okay, if I want to be a cloud architect, what does that entail? What type of competency and resources and everything else that you need to do the work, because no one is going to hire someone who doesn't know how to do the job. It's not about the experience, it's about the competency. Yeah. And once you get to that goal, you need to understand how to stay in that goal. It's not enough to get there. You gotta achieve that goal, and you gotta continually thrive. Just as much as technology continues to grow and evolve, you have to do the same. You have to provide that competitive edge for your clients, no matter what you want to do. And you got to be able to, like you say, in this point, stay consistent with being a constantly evolving professional. So those are a few points that we're able to share. But if you can provide more information in the thread, that will be helpful as well.
Thanks, Alonzo.
All right. So this is our next to last question. Mr. Dominic says, how related is cloud architecture with system design?
Cloud architecture is system design, but here's the thing. Some people think system design is the design of a system. Cloud architecture is all the systems. It is the people, the processes, the technology. If we're dealing with a web application, how do the people come in to the system? What do they see? What do they hear? What do they feel? What applications are behind that, running the business logic? How is the data stored? Where is the data stored? What are we doing with the data? Are we taking the data in? Is it going in a relational database, a NoSQL database, or both? Do we have other data and streaming data coming in? Is that going somewhere into, say, object storage? Is there a data warehouse? What do we do? How do we secure the system? Is a critical part of the component. What type of storage architecture do we need? What kind of networking architecture do we need? What kind of wide area networking architecture do we need? What kind of internet routing architectures do we need? What kind of applications do we need? Unified communications, CRM systems, ERP systems, or other business applications? When we put in these things, how does it affect the way that people work? Does it improve their business processes? How do we connect people? How do we connect, say, 20,000 remote locations? How do we design the IP address planning to make sure that the routing works? And that's all system design. It's all design. There's no touching of the technology. It's all design. And then writing it up, responding to proposals, for example, like requests for proposals, requests for information, requests for quotes, which is basically pricing. All design.
All right. So Nuruddin asked if there's a difference between solution architect and cloud architect.
Yes. So a cloud architect knows the cloud and can really work with their customers. So with this new $9 billion multi-cloud thing from the government, as well as 81% of your customers, a cloud architect is prepared. The cloud architect can set up a hybrid cloud, a multi-cloud, and they know all clouds. And they learn the cloud the same way you learn to drive. If you can drive one car, you can drive all cars. Now, the solution architect only knows one cloud and only works for one company like AWS. So if you're a solution architect, your career is so limited. You can work for basically one or two employers, and that's it. If you know Azure and you want to be a solution architect, you can work for Microsoft. That's it. If you want to be an AWS solution architect, you can work for AWS, and that's it. Now, if you want to be a cloud architect, you can work for anybody. You can work for Accenture, for example. You can work for big banks. And Nuruddin, why do I like big banks? Well, they have unlimited budget. Alonzo, you remember when the average employee at Goldman Sachs got a $600,000 bonus? That was that about 10 years ago? Yes. That was then. And all of us MBAs that were strategy consultants were thinking, hey, wait, maybe we should be at this organization. But that's the thing. The best jobs are not often at the tech companies. They're at global banks. They're at global businesses. They're in all kinds of places. So as a cloud architect, you can always work as a solution architect.
Yeah.
The solution architect can't work as a cloud architect. And that's why there's much more money and much more opportunity by knowing the cloud. So, Nuruddin, think of it this way. If you needed a delivery person working for you because you were busy and you needed someone to pick up your dry cleaning, your laundry, your food, would you hire somebody that can only drive one car? And when you had a fleet of cars, you had a Mercedes, you had a BMW, you had a Toyota, you had an old car, which was your favorite one because it was the one that you had when you were younger. And you said, here's the key. And they could only drive one of the cars, the old one. And when the old one was in the shop, they couldn't drive anything else, and you'd be paying them to do nothing. So really, you want to be a cloud architect. I wouldn't recommend becoming a solution architect for anybody. And that's why we teach the cloud. Now, sure, we cover the AWS Solutions Architect Professional and the Azure Solutions Architect Expert in our course, but that's basics, elemental stuff. A cloud architect can do everything. Kind of the difference when someone says, I want to be a Cisco engineer, when they told me that years ago, I said, what? I want to learn Cisco. And I said, no, you want to learn networking. And they're like, I want to learn Cisco. And I said, no, you're going to learn networking. And I said, if you know OSPF and BGP, whether it's Cisco, Extreme, Juniper, Arista, you're going to work on all of them. And it's funny. That's the way I learned it. You know what happened? I had my first job, and it was Cisco. 6 months later, I was an architect, the lead architect on Wall Street for the largest market maker on the NASDAQ. And I got there, and they're like, yeah, we got Extreme switches. We got Cisco stuff. Can you make it work? And I said, of course I can. It's the same OSPF. So learn the cloud, not a cloud provider.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. – Medina asked, do you only train for cloud architect?
Well, we either train cloud architects, because that's the best field right now in technology. We train people in tech how to interview for bigger and higher paying positions. Hopefully we can help them eke out an extra $50,000 to $100,000 in their interview with our interview coaches. And we train people to make more money in tech. So an engineer that wants to become a distinguished engineer and double their salary, a manager that wants to become a director and do that, a software engineer that wants to be an application architect, for example, we teach them the business skills that will help them get there. Someone who's a systems engineer that wants to be a director in a couple of years and add an extra $200,000 to their salary, we train that. So it's either architects, interviewing, or or how to make more money in tech. That's our specialty, and we really focus on these things. We're not focusing on any of the hands-on tech careers, and we feel strongly that it's not the right idea to do so at this time, and here's why. After COVID, what happened is the technology changed. I've worked from home remotely for 20 years ago, so COVID had changed a few things. Where you work became irrelevant. You could work in California, Cayman Islands, Chicago, Cameroon, or Cambodia. Now, why does that matter so much? Well, to buy a house, a basic nothing house in San Francisco, you have to pay $1.49 million, and you need $416,000 a year to live there. You can hire someone in Cameroon, and they need to spend $24,000 for the house. So there's a difference in income to have the same standard of living. $100,000 in the U.S. is equivalent to $28,000 in India for the same standard of living. So if you had an engineer, you're going to pay him $200,000 in the U.S. You're going to pay him $56,000 in India. You're going to pay him $56,000 in India. So the second reason we're not recommending hands-on tech careers like engineering anymore or software development is the following. Right now, AI is in its infancy, but ChatGPT can already write code. And, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. ChatGPT can already do these things. Now, we're dealing with GPU performance that's pretty much doubling almost every year. We're dealing with fully programmable ASICs and ASICs that will literally speed up AI by 10 times in the next 5 to 10 years. That's the end of all these hands-on tech careers. Now, architects can't be replaced. Architects can't be replaced for the following reasons. The business and the human side, the ability to go face-to-face with the CEO and talk about why your tech can make their business better. That's the secret to earning more. The business acumen, the business knowledge, the ability to lead large teams in relationship development. So we only train for cloud architect. We have an incredible cloud engineering program, and we're doing incredible things to them to teach them all the business skills and other skills to make sure they have elite engineering careers. But that'll keep them safe. But we don't recommend hands-on tech careers anymore because we see those dying in most parts of the world.
All right. So our next question is, good day. Thanks a lot for this webinar. I recently started on the cloud architect journey. Wondering what kind of project can I build to add to my CV in order to show potential employers?
Okay, Adiemi. And we've got a lot of Addies as students. Love the name. Here's the thing. Cloud architects don't build. So you build a bunch of things and you're going to tell them, hey, wait, I built this. And they're going to say, yes, how do you design this? So if you wrote a blog, for example, on how zero trust can improve cloud security, that might actually show you something interesting. If you could write a blog on why multi-cloud is the only solution, and you talked about availability and things and how to make it work efficiently, wonderful, awesome, great things. But cloud architects don't build. So showing it's irrelevant. Now, there are projects that I have my students do. Like I have my students build their own cloud. Now for that, I got to tell you, you're going to need a server, which actually costs more than my course. And that's why we provided our course. Because you buy a server, say it's got 24 cores and a minimum of 128 gigs of RAM and 3 SSD drives and RAID 0. And now you're building clouds. And when everybody else is like, hey, I did this little S3 bucket configuration, you're like, I built a cloud. And that will help you. So the big things, working with next generation firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, VPN concentrators to show you understand how the underlying technology works. Yeah, and our students do that. But it's really more about design portfolio showing the things that you can design and architect, because that's the job. Hope I answered your question there.
So all right, so our next question is, how can a network engineer transition into cloud? Also, is having a CCIE beneficial to cloud networking?
Well, Tula, my CCIE number is 7417. It's the most valuable certification out there. It's the only one that by itself can help you get a job. Now, you still didn't tell me what kind of job you want. I've helped network engineers like Joe Millen. He came to me as a network engineer with the CCIE. Within a month less than a month in our program, he's a senior solution architect with AWS, and he's got a great job. But I don't know whether you want to be a cloud architect or a solution architect. I don't know whether you want to be an engineer. And all of that changes what you need to learn. So we need to know what kind of job you want. Otherwise, it's like saying, I'd like to get on an airplane. Which airplane should I get on? I'm like, I don't know. Do you want to go to Bangalore? Do you want to go to Bermuda? Do you want to go to Bamenda, Cameroon? Do you want to go to Boston? I need to know where you want to go because it changes the plan.
All right.
TJ.
I've been watching this channel from the UK for almost a year now, and I must say I've really learned a wealth of knowledge. This is just a big thank you for spreading so much knowledge and tips.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So,
thank you so much.
So hopefully we get a response from Tolu about that. Here we go, because this is our last question. It says he would like to be a cloud network engineer.
Tolu, good news. You already are. What are you going to be dealing with as a network engineer in the cloud? IP addressing, subnetting, and supernetting, NAT, VPC pairing, which is basically just BGP pairing, hub and spoke BGP transitive and non-transitive environments, just like a route reflector versus a non-route reflector. And it's pretty simple. At this point, I would just, if you're a network engineer and you've been a network engineer, you already know the job. And while I'm not big on certifications because they won't really teach you anything you need to know, but if you're a good network engineer and you get a basic network AWS certification like the Certified Solution Architect Associate, and you've got some kind of big networking background behind you, and your background, you already know the job. So cloud network engineer is basically a network engineer, so just get a little hands-on with some of the things like VPC pairings and transit gateways and cloud hubs. And, the same access list you're doing, it's pretty much the same. The only thing is you've got less functions on the cloud. You better make sure your route summarization and aggregation are really good, because in a network engineer like you or me, might taking in 800,000 routes from the internet. When we go to the cloud, we can't give them more than 100 routes over a direct connection via BGP. So that's it. You're already there. You already know the job. Same job. Kind of like the song that used to be a song. Meet the new boss. Same as the old boss. Same thing. You're in great shape.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today for this Q&A session. I hope we were able to answer all of your questions and hopefully help you get on your way to being cloud hired. I want to remind everybody about our free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure to register at the link in the chat box and in the description. This is a free opportunity for you to hear from us and ask questions in an intimate environment. We're going to share with you exactly what you need to know to become the ultimate cloud architect, and whether you do it with us or on your own. Make sure you register and join us for that. And then, of course, also make sure you are following Mike and Go Cloud Careers on LinkedIn so that you can stay up to date with all the things that we have going on. But yeah, so again, thank you everybody for joining us. We'll see you again next time. See you tomorrow. Have a good day.